Great lesson, and you presented it very well. You can't say enough about God, and we appreciate you reminding us about that tonight. My humility has been offended somewhat because you included me in your lesson, although I will not discuss with you what kryptonite really is and how it affects me. But I do appreciate so much your using that illustration tonight. But being the humble man that I am, I wouldn't want to. Go. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. See, it is me. See. Anyway, Isaiah chapter 8. Good job. Very good. And I know you're going to do well at Last Leaders. Speaking of God and seeing His glory, I've often wondered about that, and still do. What does it mean, really? You cannot see my face and live. You know, Moses was asking God to see His glory. I want to see your glory. And only according to the King James, you can see my hinder parts, but you can't see my face. But he got a glimpse of the glory as it passed by. But why would you die to see God's glory? You know, there are many beautiful things. You ever seen a sunset on the beach? And I mean, I don't know about you, but there's very few things in this world that really captivate my attention than a sunrise or a sunset. And I think how beautiful this is and how grand and glorious God must be, you know, in all of His glory. But when I hear what you're reading in Exodus and God saying what He did, I get the impression that it's just so beautiful, it'd kill us. And I wonder about that. Why? What is it about beauty and what is about glory that's just our frailty? I don't even understand why we would die. I don't know what that is. I do know that when God came to the mountain to speak to the nation of Israel, He instructed Moses not to let anyone come to the mountain, to touch the mountain. Not even an animal was to be allowed near the mountain while God's presence was there. And He spoke audibly to Israel. I don't know about you, but those things intrigue me. And I wonder, what does that mean? And yes, in the spirit realm and our immortal bodies, will we be able to look upon His face and see Him in all of His glory? That's what we hope that we will be able to do. But I'm saying all of that because it really, in a way, ties in to the message in chapter 8. Now, just to kind of bring everyone up to speed, starting back in chapter 6 and 7, there are 4 nations involved in this discussion. There's the nation of Judah, of which Isaiah primarily is the prophet. But there's also, at this time, still the northern nation of Israel. It's still standing, and Isaiah does have a message for them as well. And we'll see some of that again tonight. Then there is the Syrian kingdom, the third kingdom, and there is the Assyrian kingdom. So there's 4 kingdoms or countries, if you will, that are involved in this overall discussion we've been dealing with the last few weeks. And really what's taking place here is that Syria and Israel, the northern nation, are in league together, and they're trying to urge Judah to form an alliance with them against the Assyrians, because rightfully they see the Assyrians as a very powerful ascendancy, and to overcome that they felt like they could join forces. Rather than join forces, though, with his enemies, and they had heretofore been enemies, the king of Judah decided instead that he would ask the Assyrians to go in league with him. And so he feels like, well, if he can't beat him, join him. So he decided to join his lot with the Assyrians. The message from Isaiah in all of this is that you're making a mistake to join an alliance with either Israel or Syria or Assyria. Your alliance should be with God. And your trust should be in the Lord, period. You don't need to be looking to other nations. You don't need to be looking to your military. You don't need to be looking at any of these things. In fact, we're going to get to chapter 9, and he's going to mention as in the day of Midian. Now you do remember in the day of Midian with Gideon, right? And Gideon led the forces of Israel against the Midianites. Do you remember how Gideon was able to overcome the Midianites? What did Gideon do? He blew trumpets and lit a torch. And they broke their jars. And there were just 300 of them. And there was a force of Midianites, innumerable. They were not even to be counted. There were so many of them. And yet with 300 Israelites, they, in that one simple act, just breaking their jars and blowing their trumpets, gave the impression in the dark that there's this vast army coming against them. So they turned against themselves and Israel was victorious. And the point was, God said over and over to Gideon, I don't want you to take so many with you, because when you do achieve the victory that I'm going to give, I don't want Israel to say, after all is said and done, that Israel saved Israel. I want them to know this victory came from me and that their trust should be in me. God's been telling his people this from the very beginning of time, and it's the same message that Isaiah has to the people of Judah. You need to put your trust in me. Now, that being said, let's just read the text together. It's broken up into about 6 different paragraphs here. And it's kind of interesting because he's going back and forth as far as who his target audience is, who he's speaking to. And yet they're all kind of tied together. So let's just begin chapter 8, verse 1. Moreover, the Lord said to me, take a large scroll and write on it with a man's pen concerning Maher-shalal-Hashbaz. And I will take for myself faithful witnesses to record Uriah the priest and Zechariah the son of Jeberechiah. Then I went to the prophetess, and she conceived and bore a son. The Lord said to me, call his name Maher-shalal-Hashbaz. For before the child shall have knowledge to cry, my father and my mother, the riches of Damascus and the spoil of Samaria will be taken away before the king of Assyria. The Lord also spoke to me again, saying, inasmuch as these people refuse the waters of Shiloah that flow softly, and rejoice in Rezin and Remaliah's son, now therefore, behold, the Lord brings up over them the waters of the river, strong and mighty, the king of Assyria and all his glory. He will go up over all his channels and go over all his banks. He will pass through Judah. He will overflow and pass over. He will reach up to the neck, and the stretching out of his wings will fill the breadth of your land, O Emmanuel. Be shattered, O you peoples, and be broken in pieces. Give ear, all you from far countries. Gird yourself, but be broken in pieces. Gird yourself, but be broken in pieces. Take counsel together, but it will come to nothing. Speak the word, but it will not stand. For God is with us. For the Lord spoke thus to me with a strong hand, and instructed me that I should not walk in the way of this people, saying, do not say a conspiracy concerning all that this people call a conspiracy, nor be afraid of their threats, nor be troubled. The Lord of hosts, him you shall hallow. Let him be your fear, and let him be your dread. He will be as a sanctuary, but a stone of stumbling and a rock of offense to both the houses of Israel, as a trap and a snare to the inhabitants of Jerusalem. And many among them shall stumble, they shall fall and be broken, be snared and taken. Bind up the testimony, seal the law among my disciples. And I will wait on the Lord, who hides his face from the house of Jacob, and I will hope in him. Here am I and the children whom the Lord has given me. We are for signs and wonders in Israel for the Lord of hosts, who dwells in Mount Zion. And when they say to you, seek those who are mediums and wizards who whisper and mutter, should not the people seek their God? Should they seek the dead on behalf of the living? To the law and to the testimony, if they do not speak according to this word, it is because there is no light in them. They will pass through it hard-pressed and hungry, and it shall happen when they are hungry that they will be enraged and curse their king and their God and look upward. Then they will look to the earth and see trouble and darkness, gloom of anguish, and they will be driven into darkness. There's a lot being said here, so let's just take our time and see if we can't break this down. To address, again, the king's insistence that he find an ally, someone to help him. The message is, this threat that you fear, these two nations that you fear, if you just wait a little while, God is telling them, I will take care of them. They will not be a long long-standing threat. And so he names Isaiah's son, and it's an odd name, Maher-shalal-Hashbaz, and the actual meaning can be, and this is literal English, speed the spoil, hasten the prey, or it could be quick pickings, easy prey. So there's a significance to the name of Isaiah's son, and that is that Judah is going to be easy pickings. They're going to be an easy prey. They've left themselves vulnerable, and the reason for that is you've abandoned your one true ally. And you've insisted instead that you're going to turn to either Israel or the Syrians or the Assyrians, and that's where you're putting your trust. And that's going to leave you wide open. You're going to be easy pickings. Now, it's interesting because he refers to his wife as a prophetess. It's the only time I know she's referred to this way. Perhaps she was herself inspired. I don't know. Maybe she's called a prophetess because she's married to a prophet. I really don't have a whole lot of information on why he refers to her this way. But when he says he went to the prophetess, it means he had normal relations with his wife, and they had a child in the usual way. But before this child is old enough to say mama or daddy or granddaddy, before he's old enough to speak, in other words, this threat that you fear will no longer be. Now you go back to chapter 7. And God had promised that a son would be born. And we know that this prediction ultimately refers to Jesus. A virgin shall conceive and bear a son. Many believe, as do I, that chapter 8 is the first fulfillment of that prophecy. And that his wife, at the time that Isaiah 7 was spoken, and that part of his ministry was being delivered, she was herself a young woman, which literally is the meaning in Hebrew, a young woman. Perhaps they hadn't even been brought together yet. They had not consummated their marriage yet. That's possible as well. But either way, I believe that woman in chapter 7 that would bear a son is now this same woman, his wife, who bears a son. And before he's old enough to say mama or daddy, those nations he fears would no longer be a threat. But there's an ultimate meaning and fulfillment. And Matthew chapter 1 makes it clear that that ultimate meaning was, of course, Jesus would be born of the Virgin Mary in a very unusual way. So this child was conceived in the usual way. Just something to bear in mind as you think about the words and their meaning and how they're being used in Isaiah and how they sometimes can have double meaning. But now, easy pickings. Notice the latter part of verse 4. My mother, the riches of Damascus and the spoil of Samaria will be taken away before the king of Assyria. The Assyrians are going to wipe out the Syrians, and they're going to wipe out the Israelites. And they're going to just about wipe you out. That's what he's beginning in verse 6. Verses 6 through 8, he's describing how the Assyrians, the people that they're now paying tribute to, are actually going to come and destroy your villages and your cities. They're going to come even to the neck. You can imagine someone being thrown off the deep end in the pool, and it's over their head, and they're almost to the point of drowning. And so they're barely keeping their head above water. That's the description that Isaiah is giving to the king of Judah. This is your nation. You're going to just about completely drown in this overflowing flood that's going to come from this raging river that's the Assyrian nation. And this is in comparison and contrast to the soft flowing waters of Shiloah. Shiloah is the Hebrew term for shallow, which was first used in the book of Genesis. Do you remember who first referred to shallow and who was referred to as shallow? In Genesis, by Jacob, whose name had been changed to Israel. He's dying, and he's speaking to his sons. And the fourth one, whose name was Judah. There you go. I was going to give a few hints, but eventually get to it. But okay, so Judah was told that his descendants would be, that Shiloh would come from his descendants. And here we have Shalom. In John chapter 9, Jesus told the man born blind to go wash in what pool? Pool of Siloam. So there was a pool that was fed by soft flowing waters. In fact, the water flowed by pressure was pushed upstream and it filled the pool. And so it was literally gently flowing waters that fed this stream and also gave sustenance to the people of Judah in many occasions when they were being surrounded by their enemies. And so this is a very popular place. It was being used or utilized in the time of Isaiah. But here's the point. God's referring to himself and to his aid as the softly flowing waters of Shalom, as opposed to the raging waters of the river of Assyria that are going to just about drown you. Now let's think about that for a moment. God is inviting the king of Judah. Trust in me. Rely upon me. Seek my help. We might even say, seek my way. Do my will. And what will God do for them? God will deliver them. God will prosper them. God will give them a future, as we just were reminded a moment ago. Because that's God's design and that's God's plan. But if you put your trust in the Assyrians, they're going to kill you. They're literally going to make mincemeat of you. You're going to be easy picking for the Assyrians. And so the foolhardiness of the king is on display here. I mean, this misplaced confidence was just total foolishness. You're doing this to your own harm. Have you ever known anyone to do anything like that? To say, I'm going to abandon the church, I'm going to abandon God, I'm going to seek my own path, do my own thing. Have you ever thought of a nation of people doing something like that? I saw something this morning, it really disturbed me. The largest philosophical / religious group in America today, for the first time in U.S. history, are atheists. They outnumber Catholics, they outnumber Protestants, they outnumber all of us. For the first time in American history, there are more people calling themselves atheists than those who are believers. And of course, we see with the rise of this insanity, this madness, this foolishness, that's what the songwriter said. Only a fool would say there's no God. So we have all these fools coming along saying we don't believe in God. And it's a worldview. And this worldview is affecting everything. It affects education, it affects entertainment, it affects politics, it affects family life, it affects every aspect of our lives and our culture. And so we're seeing a godless, literally, a godless worldview rising to ascendancy in our own country before our very eyes. And we're seeing radical changes in our culture. And they're not good changes. I'm not suggesting that we're seeing anything healthy or wholesome. Quite the opposite. And so the further we get away from God, the more vulnerable we become. By the way, and this is just going to give an illustration. This is a real-time illustration of how people continue to do the same stupid things. Just as the king of Judah was being stupid and foolhardy to put his trust in the Assyrians, they'll be my deliverer. God's saying, what about me? I'm here to help you. I'm here to protect you. Don't want you. Don't need you. I'll put my reliance in the Assyrians. But they're going to hurt you. I remember right after those planes flew into those towers. It was terrible. I mean, to me, it's almost like yesterday. I know some of you young people like it seemed like forever ago, but it was just like yesterday. I blinked my eyes and it happened. But we saw those towers fall to the ground, and we saw Republicans and Democrats. We saw everybody in Washington standing outside the Capitol building on the stairs singing God Bless America. I'm like, wow, I've never seen that in my lifetime. But then you started hearing all through the 2000s, we will never forget. We will never forget. We will never forget. You know, we have congresswomen and men now elected open Muslims who are defying this nation, intending to exalt Sharia law in this country. This is absolute madness. How quickly have we forgotten who these people are and what they want to do to us? They don't like us. And so this silly notion of tolerance is just insane. We're saying we want to seek help in giving, some kind of aid and comfort to these Muslims. We want to make them feel welcome here. I'm sorry, I don't. I want them to convert. I want them to find the Lord. I want to teach them the truth. But I don't want them to feel comfortable here, because I know if they get comfortable, they're going to cut my head off or my kids' heads off or somebody's head. They're going to blow up somewhere. That's what they do. And you say, oh, you're being hateful to me. I'm being straight with you. It's just as foolish as the king of Judah was many centuries ago. Well, we'll try to make friends with our enemies. We'll make good with our enemies. Probably political correctness had gone amok, I guess, and they were just trying to, play nice with the Assyrians. And God said, it's foolish. Why would you do such a foolish thing? Well, here we are doing the same thing. It's disturbing to me. I don't know about you, but we really need to wake up as a nation of people and see what's happening to us. Okay, verse 9 and 10. We're shifting gears again, because even though the Assyrians are going to reach all the way up to the neck, remember the last phrase in verse 8, O Emmanuel. In other words, the Syrians are going to be utterly destroyed. The Israelite nation is going to completely be obliterated. The Assyrians won't leave them as a distinct nation any longer. They will not have that kind of power over Judah. They're going to hurt Judah. They're going to bring Judah to their knees, but Judah will survive. They're going to come up to the neck. In other words, if you read in the Chronicles and 2 Kings, you're going to see where Sennacherib and the others came and invaded Judah, and they came all the way to Jerusalem. And remember what Rob Shockey was saying, you're trusting in your God. He's going to deliver you. Did this God deliver any of these other villages or cities? I mean, Lamech was taken, and that was a great blow to Judah. And now Jerusalem itself is being threatened, but Jerusalem did not fall to the Assyrians. And so they came within a gnat's hair of being utterly destroyed, but they did survive barely. But Assyria still thought of themselves as being some hotshot. And so Isaiah has a word for them too. After they've done what they did, he's reminding them, this is God's land. Oh, Emmanuel, God is with us. That's what he's saying. And then in verse 9, be shattered, O you peoples, and be broken in pieces. Give ear, all you from far countries. Gird yourself, but be broken in pieces. Gird yourself, but be broken in pieces. Take counsel together, but it will come to nothing. Speak the word, but it will not stand, for God is with us. He repeats it again. So we have Emmanuel again at the latter part of verse 10. So he's letting the Assyrians know, you're going to do what you're going to do. God's going to allow you to do what you're doing, but ultimately, he's going to have his way with you too. So he's going to turn the tables on them. Now verse 11. Remind me of something else I saw today in the news. Apparently, preachers today are afraid to preach on social issues like abortion and homosexuality. Now, I'm not surprised to hear that being reported in the news. I've actually seen it and witnessed it with my own eyes and ears. I've told you this before. I mean, going back many years, when I would travel to other congregations, and I'd just be preaching a normal sermon, probably just a rehash of something I did Sunday here. I'm not a new sermon for them. I just preached something I did here that Sunday. So I go there and I preach it Wednesday night, and people are like, and I'm like, what is it? I mean, what's going on? We haven't heard anybody preach on homosexuality in 100 years. I'm like, well, you're not that old. I know, but we won't remember anybody ever. What do you mean? What are you talking about? We don't hear sermons like that. They don't preach against stuff like that. Why? I mean, it's in the news today. Did anybody see that reported today? Preachers are afraid to talk about the social issues for fear there'll be a backlash. They might offend some of their members. 60%. Is it 50% of preachers? 60%. It's pretty bad, isn't it? I offend people all the time. Of course, you knew that. Nobody wants to offend anyone. That's not why we preach. It's not to be offensive, but it's to be truthful, to be honest. And if it offends people to preach the truth, by the way, when you think about, how can we perfect the art, the oratory skill to such a level that we won't offend anyone? Well, you'd have to ask Jesus that, because if anyone was ever a master teacher, he is the master teacher, and they crucified him. So it's not like you can preach the truth and the world just loves you. Oh, you're such a great. So if you're in the preaching mode, Justin, and you think, I'm going to preaching, don't do that thinking that people are going to like you. They won't. not going to be liked by a lot of people. Some people will love you and support you, but most people will just think you're weird and odd, and they won't like you, and they'll say bad things about you.
Well, that's a great source of encouragement to have friends on.
See, that's what I'm saying. Preachers are afraid to tell the truth anymore. I'm just telling you the truth. I'm speaking the voice of experience. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, if you're going to a popularity contest, go to Hollywood. I mean, you're not going to be popular if you're a faithful preacher. That's just not what faithful preaching does. It doesn't win friends and influence people like we've been told we're supposed to. And I think that's the problem. And so, verse 11, God's now speaking directly to the preacher. And the Lord said to me with a strong hand, and preachers need to hear a strong word from God. And he instructed me that I should not walk in the way of this people. You remember when, I laugh every time I think about it. You know, God sent Moses, right, to Pharaoh. And the message from God through Moses to Pharaoh, let my people go. And God refers to them as my people, my people. Carries them across the Red Sea, brings them to the foot of Mount Sinai. And then he come down from the mountain after receiving the Ten Commandments. Moses, those people that you brought out of Egypt, they've corrupted themselves. Wait a minute. They're your people. You brought them out of Egypt. God blaming Moses for that. Wait a minute. Hold on. I didn't do this. God was disowning his people immediately. And he's still doing it. He's still saying, those people. He doesn't even call them his people. Those people. He said, don't walk in the way of those people. Don't be like them. And don't listen to them. So Justin, when they say ugly, nasty things, don't listen to them. And I'm good at not listening to people. Ask Regina. Verse 12. Do not say a conspiracy concerning all that this people call a conspiracy. Now, kind of vague, you wonder what it means. When you get later, like 150 years later when Jeremiah is preaching, the same thing was said of Jeremiah. But it's a little clearer what was being said of Jeremiah. The accusation of Jeremiah was, you're in league with the Babylonians. And you're an agent of the Babylonians. You're colluding with the Babylonians. And so that's what they were saying of Jeremiah. That's literally the case. I hadn't thought about that just now, but you're colluding with the Babylonians. And so as we would say, you are a Benedict Arnold. You're turning against your own people. And they're saying the same thing about Isaiah. You're in league with the Assyrians. That's why you just said all these horrible things the Assyrians are going to do to us. You're part of a conspiracy. He said, don't be afraid of that. And instead, don't be afraid of them. You be afraid of me. Every preacher needs to be reminded. Don't be afraid of those people that say horrible, nasty things to you. Your fear shall be me. The Lord of hosts, him you shall hallow. Let him be your fear. Let him be your dread. For if I seek to please men, I should not be the servant of Christ, Paul said to the Galatians. But he also said in verse 14, he will be as a sanctuary. In other words, he'll be a safe place for you. So, yes, fear the Lord as a preacher, but also trust in the Lord as a preacher. The Lord will take care of you. The Lord will deliver you. But to the house of Israel, both houses of Israel, Israel of the north, Judah of the south, it will be a stone of stumbling and a rock of offense. God will. Okay, skipping very quickly, we're running out of time. Verse 16, bind up the testimony, seal the law among my disciples. In other words, stop preaching. That's interesting. I got news for you, brethren. Faithful gospel preachers are a blessing from God to us. They are. I'm not talking just about myself. I mean preachers that preach the truth are our best friends in the world. And they are an expression of God's grace and mercy. And over again, especially in Jeremiah. I sent my prophets rising early and calling to you, and you wouldn't listen. And so over and over, God depicts himself as crying out to people, come back to me, return to me, repent of your sin. Over and over again, God's sending out his prophets early, rising early. He's doing everything he can. But there comes a time when God says, that's it, enough. I'm not dealing with you anymore. At the time of this ignorance, God, he's talking about the Gentile nation. Now, compare that with Romans chapter 1. He gave those nations up. Why? Because they suppressed the knowledge of the truth. He just turned away from it. But he kept on preaching to Israel. And Israel didn't understand how good they had it. That he sent preachers to them over and over again with the written word, encouraging them to come back to him, to do the right thing. Can you imagine a world without a Bible, without a preacher? Can you imagine a world where all you got was what the world says to you and how the world treats you? And there was no light, there was no direction, there was no knowledge of the Holy One. It was just a dark world. I've shared this with you before, but the Book of Eli with Denzel Washington is a powerful movie. It's not something I would recommend you watch unless you happen to run across it. But it depicts a world in which the Word of God is no longer existent. And it's a horrible depiction of humanity. But I believe it's an accurate depiction of a world. The atheists that are in the ascendancy now are still living on Christian values and borrowing Christian values to live their lives with and enjoy a better life for themselves. Just give it time. When those Christian values are forgotten and completely fall by the wayside, it's going to be a dreadful place for this world, for this people, when they no longer have the light of God's word. Find up the testimony. In other words, you preach to this king long enough, he's not listening, just stop preaching to him. That's a sad time when God says, I'm not going to speak to you anymore. And then in verse 19, these people are turning to wizards and mediums. They're turning to soothsayers. And they're doing seances. And they're asking dead people. Let's conjure up the dead and ask them what to think about the living. I mean, how foolish is that? They're dead. And so you're asking them about the living. To the law and the testimony! Exclamation point. To the law and the testimony. And he says this, if they do not speak according to this word, it is because there is no light in them. I mean, this is powerful stuff. And so it's really kind of reminds me of the restoration principle, restoration idea. I mean, people are saying all kind of crazy things today. And if they're not preaching what they're preaching and it doesn't square with the Word of God, it's because there is no light in them. And we need to recognize that. If what they're saying can't be found with a book, chapter, and verse, we need to stop listening to them because they're not preaching the truth. And if you're preaching the truth, it's because you're preaching the law and the testimony, and you're not seeking whisperers, mutterers, wizards, sorcerers. This is typical, again, of people who reject God, who reject the way of the Lord and the word of the Lord. They tend to go in that direction. And again, we're seeing that same thing. Any questions or comments about chapter 8? I know we had to hurry through it, but hopefully didn't butcher it too bad.
Did you watch the movie? You personally?
I did. Several times. Why?
Because we were flipping through channels and saw it. We watched the trailer.
He Eats a Cat at the beginning. It's pretty good. You need to watch it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's on the to-do list, but I want to wait first.
And when the cat's cooking, it gets the oil from the cat. It's pretty cool. You'll enjoy watching. That's what got my attention. Oh,
Yeah, I watched the trailer. I was like,
yeah. But I'm telling you, at the end, it actually looked pretty good. At the end, it has a twist to it, and the twist is just phenomenal. And you say, "Oh, I see now." Yeah, don't say that because if you've never seen a movie, you wouldn't know that. Yeah, you have to watch it now. Unless she just told you all the movie. Hey, Andrew. How are you? Okay. Hey. Stop. Number 809, please, in your songbooks. Huh? No, it's her. Don't forget, Ladies' Night Out is tomorrow at La Fiesta here in Villa Rica, Mirror Lake Plaza at 6:30. So, Ladies' Night Out. James, be quiet so we can speak. Our gospel meeting starts this Sunday. So I'm excited about the gospel meeting. We're going to be meeting at 10 for the Bible study hour, 11 for worship. We're going to have lunch together and then meet again at 1:30 for the afternoon service. So please remember to be here. This is an opportunity to bring someone with you that needs to hear the gospel. I mean, simple first principle gospel lessons. And this would be a wonderful opportunity. If you have family members, neighbors, co-workers, please have them here for the meeting. And don't forget the time change for next week. Also, the area-wide Widowhood Luncheon will be hosting the next area Widowhood Luncheon the 24th at 11:30. If you can help provide food, please see Deanna before you leave tonight. Our prayer list is quite extensive tonight, and I want to have your attention for just a moment. Sister Wheeler, that was just here a few moments ago, left. Handed me a note. Please pray for me. When we leave Bible study, we will be going to the emergency room. I've been experiencing chest and stomach pain for the past 2 days, and it's getting worse. And so she's leaving to go to the emergency room and is asking us to remember her in prayer. Regina is out of the hospital, obviously, back here tonight. She had spent a day or so in the hospital. They did do every battery test you could possibly do to your heart, and basically have concluded it's the same thing she's been dealing with for several years, but she's going to have to go back on her medication. And so hopefully in a few days she'll be back to her old self. And so please remember her in your prayers. My mother is at home with a device on her head tonight and not feeling well. She's been having spells lately, and they're trying to do it's a neurological exam they're trying to do with her. It takes about 3 days, and she's not really able to be very mobile and get around. So please remember my mother, and she's not feeling well at all tonight. Lynn is here with us tonight. She had an epidural Monday, wasn't it? And you're back. And did they do any good? You don't have a spine? Do you have a spine? Did they find a spine? Okay. Anyway. Oh, you're spineless. Ada Belmore, Ann Spain's sister, have been diagnosed with cancer. I'm very sorry to hear that. Becky Moore, Julie Wilson's sister, also is still struggling with cancer. Jane Davison called this afternoon, said, please pray for both of us, Robert and myself. Said we were sick Sunday, and I'm sick now, but she also got a report back from the x-ray that her lungs are clear, but she has an enlarged heart. And so she's having a lot of issues, as you might imagine, from that. And she's asking us to remember her in a very special way in our prayers. Anyone else we need to mention on the prayer list tonight? Roger is where? What? He's back in the hospital? I did not know this. They are going to take him back to the nursing home. I'm sorry to hear that. And also Bertha is continuing to recover from surgery. So we've had a lot of people in and out of the hospital. And Kay Bosworth is in ICU. That's what I was trying to remember. But they have gotten a handle on the infection. They just don't know they've totally isolated the source of it. But she almost passed away yesterday. The infection got so bad. But she's in ICU at Douglas Wellstar, and certainly want to remember her. Glad you're able to get out tonight. And please give her a regard when you see her tonight. Anyone else?
Joanne Forbes is sick.
Joanne Forbes is sick. I'm so sorry. All this pollen stuff getting everybody. Well, hopefully we'll all be well, and maybe this next weekend things will turn around and we will have a great meeting. And don't forget to bring plenty of food with you Sunday so we can all eat together. And because we'll be spending time starting at 10, 11, then we'll have lunch, and then we'll have our afternoon service. Number 809 has been announced as the song of invitation in our song books. Justin had a really good lesson tonight. I am that I am. Talked about the omniscience of God, the omnipotence of God, and the omnipresence of God.